is preparing for war. Preparing for war not because China wants war, but China knows that in order to avoid war, you must be prepared for war. So there's a famous line in Sun Tzu Bing Fa, The Art of War, which says, 无事其不攻，是无有所不可知攻也. In other words, do not plan on the assumption that the other side will not attack. Plan on the basis that you can withstand all attacks. Then there will be peace. Now, interestingly, this statement from Sun Tzu was quoted by Medvedev, the Russian Prime Minister, who has also been reading Sun Tzu. There are three main domains of warfare which I think China is worried about. Now, I don't belong to the Five Eyes. I'm not in government, so I'm just watching and trying to understand and make sense of what I read and see. One is, of course, nuclear warfare. China says it will not be the first to use nuclear weapons, so it must have a deterrent capability. The U.S. has been quite determined to deny China a counter-strike capability. Because if it's just conventional warfare, repeated scenario war gaming by the Indo-Pacific Command, by RAND, shows that in a conventional war around Taiwan, the South China Sea, America cannot prevail. So they must be able to threaten nuclear weapons. But if China can threaten back, then that threat is blunted. So China has a few hundred warheads. America has many thousands. And China is thinking of putting the ICBMs on high-speed rail. It's about the same length as the carriage. But they can't be sure because a few hundred, you can tag every one of them. Yes, you have tunnels, but I know where the tunnels open and where they close, and I can close them. China's strategic bombing is very backwards, relatively speaking. So they are very dependent on strategic submarines, which is why the South China Sea is so important. It's not about navigation or shipping. At the core of it are nuclear submarines. You know, in Sanya, they have a facility like you see in James Bond movie, you know, deep down below the submarines come out. The Americans cover the seabed. They have all kinds of drones, seabed arrays, surveillance to monitor all the Chinese submarines. And the Chinese harass American submarines and encourage the fishermen to fish out American drones. They pay much more for a drone than for a tuna. You see? So there's a game going on which is not much reported, but which those who are interested follow. But just to be sure, China will increase its warheads to maybe 1,000, maybe more. So that whatever you do, you can't take out all my counter-strike capability. And without that counter-strike capability, America's ability to prevent reunification of Taiwan will be severely blunted. So this one serious area. And in many Chinese cities, they're building tunnels, nuclear tunnels, like they did against the Soviet Union. The second area where they worry about is cyberspace. And there, the fight will be from outer space to underground. Today, the Americans will not agree to Singtel laying a cable to America near the China coast. It must go through the Java Sea, in between Sulawesi and Kalimantan, and from then straight across the Pacific. They can tap undersea cables. They assume the Chinese can tap undersea cables. And the Chinese side, internal communication, security, all buried internally. Satellites. NASA said China wants to take over the moon. They want more money because China's space program is making rapid progress, which troubles the Americans enormously. During COVID-19, I was listening to Zhang Boli, the head of Chinese medicine in China. Every dynasty had epidemics, every dynasty, many epidemics. And China's records have recorded over 300 epidemics going back to Zhangguo. And for every epidemic, they know the symptoms, they know the progression, they know what herbs are useful. And Zhang Boli said, every epidemic is different, but they affect the same human organs. And they kill by inflammation. And we know how to treat for inflammation. So the traditional way in China to handle epidemics is lockdown. So Chang'an, Luoyang, they were divided into 108 fang. Every fang can be locked down, whether it is an assassin, a plot, a disease. Every fang can be locked down. During SARS, the first SARS, China locked down and stopped it. No, even in the harem, in the Neigong, they can't afford for the epidemic to kill all the princes. Then the dynasty is dead. So they have procedures for locking down the Neigong. So every concubine has a cell. So if you die, this cell dies. The rest will live. Shanghai thought it had a superior system using man-made and artificial intelligence. So when they could not handle it, they just locked down Shanghai. The Shanghainese people were completely traumatized, right? Many of us are aware of this. It can't be helped because it's a rehearsal. If one day China faces an epidemic much worse than COVID-19, it has a way to stop it. And if you are a potential troublemaker and you know that they have a system to stop it, then you won't try. Because if you try, it'll come back to you. I think this is what Xi Jinping means when he said, challenges not seen in 100 years. And for China, time is important. The longer the contest is deferred, the better it is for them because they're getting stronger. Whereas in America today is very divided. A lot of people say America has not been so divided since the Civil War. The Civil War was settled not by negotiation, not by one-table conversations. It was settled by violence. Terrible violence. So this period which America is going through now, where every institution has been weaponized and politicized, including the Supreme Court, is creating very deep divisions. To me, the greatest uncertainty in the world today is US politics. It's not US China relations. For China, the big issue is Taiwan. China has been telling the Americans, you keep saying one Taiwan, you do something else. We don't believe you. We will judge by what you do. And Wang Yi said, if there's conflict over Taiwan, there will be ferocious storms. That's the word he used, ferocious storms. In other words, there'll be war. And the entire basis of US China relations, which started with Kissinger and Nixon, was based on one China. Kissinger said, you can talk about everything else, but Zhou Enlai and Mao Zedong will always come back to Taiwan. So Taiwan is not a card. Taiwan is the basis. Every American administration thinks it's a card, and then it is brought back to reality. Will it be again brought back to reality? I'm not sure. Because the anti-China sentiments in America today are bipartisan and profound. Even if the Republicans win, they'll still be anti-China. And the deep state, meaning the security intelligence agencies, defense, they are committed on a multi-year program to fight China. So it's not going to change just because the president has changed. So in the short term, because America needs to lower tariffs in order to reduce the tax on its own population, to reduce inflation, it needs China to do some face-saving concessions for this to go through, so they need to talk. So in the coming months, we will see improvement in China-US relations, but as a longer-term proposition, I don't think the position has changed. So we're all caught in between. In Singapore, we are very reliant on the US for weaponry, for the financial system. We don't want to choose. Our best bet is to have ASEAN, because if it's just us, it's very uncomfortable. But if there's ASEAN around us, we can all hide behind ASEAN. It's an ASEAN position. When I was trade minister, foreign minister, for me, always the first circle of our trade and foreign policy was ASEAN. The more ASEAN puffs up, the more comfortable the buffer we have. It's like airbags, We meet an accident, airbags all around us. We need ASEAN for that. It's very important. And for those of us who are in business, I think we have to think through clearly, because whether we like it or not, globalization that we were used to has crested. And in selective areas, there's decoupling. Decoupling because it is strategically necessary. Even in Singapore, we're talking about food security with Sam Gui. Every country now has to protect itself. And decoupling is a way of protecting yourself. We've got to decide then, whatever business we are in, we know that there are fault lines. If you build structures across a fault line, then naturally if there's an earthquake, your structure will collapse. But you say, no, it's okay. I will be on one side. So there can be an earthquake, I'm still on one plane. If I want to straddle, don't build a monument. No, build like a kind of a souk-like structure, where we're linked together by pathways, like boats rafted together. The tides can go up and down, there could be waves. It's okay. We bop up and down, but we are still connected. So businesses, families, individuals must all make this judgment, because I see a stormy period ahead.